Okay, let's start. Morning, everyone. Welcome to our today's training session. So our today's session is HPC User Environment 1. I'm Jalen Yu from HPC User Service Group. Our group will help you use HPC more efficiently and help you with all different kinds of problems while using HPC. Today I'm going to talk about some basic HPC concepts, like how to evaluate the speed of HPC, how fast is HPC compared to a personal computer, and the top 500 list of HPC. Then I will talk about the available HPC resources, Lonnie and LH HPC, as well as the account and allocation policies, which is important even if you already have an account. Then I will show you how to use the HPC, like how to access HPC, how to check your allocation balances, how to transfer files. I also talk about how to use module to manage your software. So if we have more time, we can talk a little bit more about a job submission briefly, but otherwise we will talk about it in next week's training sessions, the HPC User Environment 2. So what is HPC? High performance computing is computation at the cutting edge of modern technology, often done on a supercomputer. A supercomputer is in the class of machines that rank among the fastest in the world. Okay? And a supercomputer could be defined to be at least 100 times as powerful as a personal PC. And normally we use a magnitude of velocity to evaluate the speed of the airplane or a car. But how do we evaluate the speed of HPC? So before talk about that, let's talk about some basic concepts of core CPU and processors. And a core is usually the basic computation unit. And one CPU may have more than one core to perform tasks at a given time. In old days, one CPU has only one core, but nowadays, like one CPU can have multiple cores. So we can see the figure here shows this CPU has 4 cores. So in this training, CPU is the same as processor, which can have multiple cores. So let's see an example. So how many cores does this computer have? It has 4 processors. Each processor has 4 cores. So it has 16 cores. Right, so let's go back to the question, how do we evaluate the performance of HPC? It is measured in floating point operation per second, which is flops. And flops equals to the number of cores times the clock rate times flops per cycle. So for example, for most processors today, they can do 4 flops per clock cycle. So a single core 2.5 gigahertz processor has a theoretical performance of 10 billion flops, which is 10 gigaflops. So the right figure shows the units of flops. And the first teraflop PC processor was released by Intel about 3 years ago. So it has 18 cores and can go up to 1.2 teraflops. And the processors in the cell phones today are very powerful, and they can even make the top 500 supercomputer list 20 years ago. So for the newest iPhone, it can reach about 50 gigaflops. While in 1993, the most powerful supercomputer can only reach 59 gigaflops. right? So any questions so far? If you have any questions, you can type in chat so I can see it. Okay, no questions. So let's continue. Let's talk about the top 500 list. So the top 500 project provides a list of 500 fastest supercomputers in the world. So as of June 2019, an IBM built supercomputer called Summit is the fastest in the world. So it has more than 2.4 million cores and can reach 200,000 teraflops. One of our clusters, Lonnie Quimby 2, is also on the list. And you can see this is how supercomputers look like. And their computers clusters are put in multiple racks. And inside each rack, there are several compute nodes. We can see a lot of compute nodes placed next to each other in the rack. And they're connected, we can see. And inside a compute node, we can see there are network card, processors, memory, storage, and may have GPUs, but it does not have input and output devices like mouse, keyboard, and monitors. Right? Any questions so far about the first part? Okay, no questions then. Just so well, it depends. It depends. It can have multiple processors, right? So, for example, I think you can find the resources. We will talk about the specs, the resources of our clusters in the next session, but in the next part. But a node can have multiple processors and multiple cores. Right? One processor, like we mentioned, one processor, one CPU can have multiple cores, and one node can have multiple CPUs also. Okay. So next we will talk about our available computing resources. So we have a university-wide resource, LSU HPC, and we have a statewide resource, Lonnie, and we also have a nationwide resource called XFeed. So let's talk about our university level resource, LSU HPC. And LSU HPC resources are available to LSU faculty and their affiliates. Both Lonnie and LSU HPC are administrated and supported by our HPC group. And for LSU HPC, we have two supercomputers, SuperMike and SuperMIC. You can find these configurations online. So let me show you. So if you go to our website, hpc.lsu.edu, then you can see the resource tab, and then you go to HPC, LSU HPC. And so for example, I want to check the resources of SuperMike 2. Then I click SuperMike 2. Then you can see the resources available. So just for the last question, you can see there are more than like 400 nodes. And so one node has two processors and say 2 8-core processors. So which means for SuperMike, one node has two processors and each processor has 8 cores, then it has 16 cores for each node. And let me go back to the slides. And for the state level resource, we have LONI, which refers to Louisiana Optical Network Infrastructure. It's a state-of-the-art fiber optical network, runs through Louisiana and connects Louisiana and Mississippi research universities. Here's about a list of part LONI member institutions. You can find a full list on LONI website. So for LONI, we have currently we have only one supercomputer called QuimB2 for most of the users. You can also find the configurations on LONI website. So here's a summary of our clusters for LSU and LONI. And you can find that all the clusters are using a Linux system. So if you're not familiar with Linux system, you can review our last week's training session about introduction to Linux. And all 3 clusters of LSU HPC are located on LSU campus. And QuimB2 is in Information Service Building, downtown Baton Rouge. For national level, we have Extreme Science and Engineering Discovery Environment, which refers to XSEED. So our SuperMeet cluster was one of the XSEED clusters. So for most of our users, LSU HPC and LONI resources can meet their needs. If you do need extra resources, just feel free to talk to us. Any questions so far? Okay, no questions. So next, let's talk about our account and allocation policies. So the application of LSU HPC account requires a valid LSU email address and LSU affiliated sponsor. So what is a account sponsor? The account sponsor is the person who is responsible for your activity on the cluster. So you can ask your advisor or PI to be your sponsor, or if you're taking a course and the course requires using HPC, then your course instructor will most likely be your sponsor. And only faculty members or certain research staff from LSU Baton Rouge campus can sponsor LSU HPC account. All the LSU students, postdocs, or research associates, they are not eligible to sponsor LSU HPC account. And they may choose their advisor as their sponsor. So also, if you're not from LSU, it is also possible to get a LSU HPC account as long as you can find a collaborator to sponsor you, to sponsor your account. And your collaborator must be a full-time faculty member at LSU, right? So the similar policies applies to LONI account. So you will need a full-time faculty member from LONI member institution to sponsor account. And it is also possible to get a LONI account if you're not from one of the LONI member institutions. You will also need a full-time faculty member from LONI member institution to sponsor account, right? So here's a question about account eligibility. So anybody can tell me which one is correct? A, B, C, D, E, F. Maybe I should start a poll. Ooh. Anyways, it's not easy though. Yeah, anybody can tell me which one is correct for this question. Nobody knows? Oh, I saw one. E, okay. It says both A and C are correct. So, okay, So E both A and C. So why B is not correct? Then F, then why B is like, okay, then F, then why B is correct. We just talk about the our account policies. So who can sponsor an account? Full faculty members, right? But the answer is E. So basically, our HPC staff cannot sponsor account. Right? So just make sure. Yeah, just make sure. So I will talk about the procedure of account applications. So just make sure if you need account, don't send us email like we cannot help you. You have to follow the procedure in the system to activate the account. So we cannot help you by ourselves. Just make sure we just make sure that everybody knows that we HPC staff cannot sponsor account. So next. Yeah, if you have any questions just related to HPC or using HPC, you can send us email to our help email help ticket system, or you can contact our help desk, right? And just one more thing I want to mention is LSU HPC and Lonnie systems are two different computational resources. If you have a LSU HPC account, you can log into SuperMic 2 and SuperMic, but you're not able to use QueenBee2 because that's Lonnie resource. And if you have a Lonnie account, you can use QueenBee2, but you cannot use SuperMic 2 and SuperMic. Just make sure that everybody knows. And then here's a procedure of how to apply for an account. So I think it's pretty straightforward. Let's go through it. If you go to our website, the same LSU, hpc.lsu.edu, and there's a link tab here. You can see if you click the links tab, you can see a list of useful links. And the first link, user account request, right? So, and there are two links for that. The left one is for Lonnie, the right one is for LSU HPC. So for example, I want to apply for a Lonnie account right now. Then I click the left link, right? And then this is the login request page. So you will need to type in your institutional email address here, right? Primary email address. So just make sure you use your institutional email address. So if you're from LSU, use your LSU email address. If you're from Tulane, use your Tulane email address here. Don't use your Gmail or Hotmail or something else. Use your institutional email address. And then you copy the code from the image here and submit. And then after you submit, you will receive an email like this. And then there's a link for you to complete the application process. So you click the link here, right? So here's the form that you will need to fill out. So you have to fill out the form, and in the here you can see Lonnie contact collaborators. There is a section means section Lonnie contact collaborators. So if you are applying for HPC account, this section will be HPC contact collaborators. So in this section, put your sponsor, right? We just talk about the account sponsor. So put the full name of your account sponsor in this section. Okay. So do not put like the name of our HPC staff, because we cannot, like we just talked about, we cannot sponsor account, right? So, and then submit this form. So after you submit your application, we will receive your account application in our system. And then we will need some time to review your application, and we have to verify your application with your account sponsor. So you won't be activated right away. It needs some time. So I get it. Chat. So yes, for both. Yes, the syshelp@lonnie.org. The email is for both. So any clusters. So if you have questions for using SuperMic or using Kunbi or using SMIC, you can send us email for both LSU HPC and Lonnie support. So it's just only one. So both LSU HPC and Lonnie resources are supported by our HPC group. So it's just only one email. Okay, for LSU HPC account, it's the same. The procedure is pretty much the same. You just need to click the different link to start the application. Right? So after we approve your account applications, you will be able to log into our user portal. So let me show you where's the user portal. So let's go to our website again. So on the website, you can see if you are LSU HPC user, you can click the LSU HPC user profile link on the top left. And if you are Lonnie users, you can use the Lonnie HPC user profile on the right. So for example, if I am a LSU HPC user, I click this link. So if this is your first time, then you will need to log in. Right? Didn't save a password. So here you have to type in your username and password and click login. Right? So after you log in, you can change your personal information and change your profile. You can see there's a profile link here. If you click the profile link, you can see you can change your name, email, and your account sponsor will be shown here. And here there's a section login shell. So if you have attended our training session last week, you should know what Linux shell is, right? The default login shell is bash. So you can change it to whichever you want, a TC shell sh. So and you can, like I mentioned, you can also change your email address here. So you may keep your account after your graduation, but your email might be expired after your graduation after some time. So you will need to keep your profile up to date, especially the email address, right? So for example, after you graduate and you find a job in a company, or you find a job in another universities, then you will again change your email address to your institutional email address, either from a university or from a company, from other institutions. You will need to make sure your email address is up to date, because if your email expired, you cannot receive any emails like from our system. So you cannot reset your password. So please keep your profile up to date. Right. So any questions about account policies and account applications? Yes. Yes. So one HPC account is valid Yeah, so the first question, yeah, one HPC. So because Super Mic 2 and Super Mic are both LSU HPC resources, right? So one account, if you have a LSU HPC account, you will be able to use Super Mic 2 and Super Mic, but just make sure there are two clusters. So say for example, you have files stored in Super Mic 2 and you are running some simulations on Super Mic 2. The files are not available on Super Mic. So they're basically two clusters, but you can use the same account to access them, right? And for both of them, I think the allocations are the same. So if you have one allocation for LHU HPC, you can use them on Super Mic 2 and Super Mic. Right? So say, but the email has to be affiliated to any of the Lonnie's. Yeah, I mean, after you graduate from like, for example, one of the Lonnie member institutions, you can still, like I said, in the account policy section, right? If you so if you find a job outside of Lonnie member institutions, so you may be you are someone not from Lonnie member institutions, you can still get an account as long as you can find a sponsor from Lonnie member institutions to sponsor account, right? So for example, you graduate and you find a job in some other places, and then you still have collaborations with the advisor. Say you still want to run some jobs on HPC to finish your previous jobs, to finish your papers, for example, and you still have collaborations with the advisor. So if your advisor agrees to sponsor your account, and you can continue using our resources. Right, just one thing, make sure you keep your email address up to date. Yes, any more questions about the account? Okay, no questions, then next we will talk about allocations. So what is an allocation? So an allocation is a block of service unit that allows a user to run jobs on a cluster. So one service unit is 1 core an hour. So for example, 40 SUs will be charged for a job that runs 10 hours on 4 cores, right? 1 core an hour. So 10 hours, 4 cores, 10 times 4 is 40. So 40 SUs will be charged. And all the learning clusters, all the additional HPC clusters, for these clusters, jobs needs to be charged to a valid allocation. So you are not able to run any jobs or any simulations on our clusters if you do not have an allocation. And well, apparently our allocation is free. Even though the resource is free, there's a value about $0.1 per core an hour from other resources like the taxpayers. So just please make sure you don't waste any of the computational resources. So who can request allocations? Our policy is only full-time faculty member at LSU or at Lonnie member institutions can be a PI and request allocations. So if you can sponsor user accounts, you can request allocations. So everyone else will need to join an existing allocation of a PI. Usually your advisor or a course instructor, like as I mentioned before. So as a non-PI, you can help your PI understand our policies. And if your PI is new to LSU, new to Lonnie, you can also help your PI prepare the allocation request. So there are two types of allocations. The first one is the startup allocation. So for startup allocation, it can have up to 50,000 SUs. and it can be requested at any time of the year, during the year, and it will begin on the first day of the quarter in which we receive the request. It's not, it does not start from the date we receive the request. It starts on the first day of the quarter in which we receive the request. And for only 2 active startup allocations per PI is allowed at any time. And if your group needs more SUs for more simulations, one more comment, I think. If allocation balance becomes 0 during simulation, what happened? Well, so it depends, like say, so for example, if you have like 100 SUs, right? If you have 100 SUs left in your allocation, and then you want to run job. So before you're running any job, you have to request the resource, right? So say you want to request a job, you want to submit a job that requires 200 SUs. The system won't let you do that. Okay, it won't let you do that. And or there might be some conflict, not say conflict, but like say if you submit multiple jobs at the same time, and like the total amount SUs for those jobs is 200, but you only have 100. Well, the job will not be stopped, but the allocation will most likely be negative, right? So at the end, but you can still run a job. The job will not be like killed or like be suspended in the middle of the simulation. That situation won't happen. And if your allocation balance is not enough, then the system won't let you submit any jobs. So, yeah, not a year. So it's not exactly a year. So like I mentioned, it will start on the first day of the quarter. So we will have a case study and tells you the expiration date. So apparently, if you do not have any balance for your start allocation, you cannot use it, right? Yeah, you don't have. So we will have a case study, right, and show you. Okay, where are we right now? So we're gonna talk about large allocations, research allocations. So like if your group needs like a lot of SUs for larger simulations, and the startup allocation may not be enough, right? So your PI may need to apply for a larger allocation, which has 50,000 to 4 million SUs. So the decisions on these research allocations will be made. Yes, they will be good for they will be good for a year, but the start date might be different. Right? So and the decision on these research allocation will be made on January, April, July, and October 1st of each year. And the request must be submitted 1 month before the decision date. And your PI can have multiple large allocations. So for LSU, HPC, and Lonnie, there are some differences on the amount of SUs of research allocations. Depending on the amount of SUs being requested, research allocations are categorized into 3 types, and different types have different requirements. So this is for LSU HPC. So these requirements can be found on the LSU HPC website. So if you go to our website again, in the users tab, there's a policies section. So if you go to LSU HPC, and you can see there's a allocations section. So click the allocation section. In the table of contents, you can find a research allocations here, right? If you go to the research allocation section, you can see all the requirements here. There's a table here, right? And then you can see there are simple proposals, right? So you can prepare your application proposal based on these simple proposals, right? And for Lonnie allocations, the procedure is not affected. So Lonnie only has one type of research allocation. So here's a case study about startup allocations. A user sent us an email saying the allocation was canceled on December 31st, even though the allocation was activated less than a year ago, right? And the user forwarded the email to us, right? So like for this case, the user's startup allocation lasts like less than a year, right? So why? So this is because the startup allocation begins on the first day of the quarter when you applied. So the user applied it on February. So the actual start date is on January the 1st, right? It starts on the first day of the quarter instead of the date that we received the application or the date that the allocation was activated, right? It starts on the first day of the quarter. So in this case, it's about 10 months, right? It's not exactly 1 year, but just make sure. And you can also check the your allocation expiration date in our system user profile. That's the same section in the user profile. So any questions? Okay, so no questions. So here is the procedure of how to request and join an allocation. So if you are a student and you want to join an allocation, you have to manually join an allocation or ask your PI to add you to the allocation, because this cannot be done by HPC staff. So you need to either do it by yourself or ask your PI to add you to the allocation. So don't send our HPC staff emails. We cannot do that for you. So let me show you how to do it. So after you say log into one of the user portals, either LSU HPC or Lonnie. So here you can see multiple links and click the request allocation for Mic 2 if you want to join an allocation on Super Mic 2. Click here and you can see there are two links. So the first link is for PI to submit application for new allocations. So if you want to join an allocation, you need to use the second link, right? Join allocation. So click the second link. And here you can use your PI's email address, full name, or login ID, right? To search your PI's allocation. So after you search your PI's allocation, if you're using like your PI's full name, there might be multiple names in the list. Just find your PI based on the email address and phone number maybe, and then click join projects here. Right, you can see the allocations available for you, and there might be multiple allocations. So just choose the one that has been activated. Right. So if your PI wants to add you to the allocations, right, your PI can go to the link here, manage memberships. right? And then edit one of the allocations and add or remove users. So here's another case study. So this user knows that the allocation of his or her PI has been approved, and the user thinks it should be available right away, but that's not the case. You will need to ask your PI to add you to the allocation, or you will need to like send a request, like I just showed you. You need to send a request in the system to be added to the allocation. So any questions about the allocation policies and allocation application procedure? Okay, no questions then. Next, we'll talk about how to reset your password. So let me show you again. So you can go to our website again. In the links tab, the same. There's a link for user password reset. Or if you log into the user portal, if you go to the user portal and you forgot a password, right? There's a link here, forgot a password, right? You can click the link here, and here you type in your email address and copy the code and click reset, and then you will receive an email with a link to reset your password. So once you have entered your new password, your password reset request needs to be manually reviewed. Right? We need to review our password reset application for security reasons, and we will need to check your profile. So the new password will not be available immediately. And once it is approved, you will receive the email notification. So please do not submit your password reset multiple times. Right? You just need to submit it like once, and then we will need some time to review it. So the only thing you will need to do after you submit your password reset is to just wait, and we will do it, we will approve it as soon as possible. Right? Okay, so here's another case study. The user assumes the new password will be available right after the reset, but that's not the case. Like we just talked about it. We need to manually approve it, right? And here are some rules for password security. I think everybody knows like how to create a secure password. The most important thing is do not share your password. Do not share your account with anyone else, including your advisor, your friends, your whoever. So otherwise, both of your accounts will be suspended. So please don't do that. So any questions about reset password or password policies or something? Any questions so far? Okay, no questions so far. So yeah, I think it's time to have a break. So if you have any questions or any concerns, just feel free to talk to us during the break. And if you have time, you can try to log into one of our user portals for practice. And if you are Windows users, you can try to download Mobile Extern, a software called Mobile Extern. We will use it after the break, in the session after the break. So if you are new to Linux and you are not familiar with Linux command, you can review them in the slides or review the our last week's training session. So I think we will probably have a 10 minutes break. So see you guys after the break. Okay. Okay, so let's start our the second session. So let's first review some useful terms for HPC. So what is cluster? A cluster is a set of connected computer nodes they work together in the cluster. In the cluster, there are hundreds of computer nodes. And what is a node? A node is a single named host machine in the cluster. Like I showed you those pictures, right, at the beginning. So it's very similar to your PC without input and output devices. So what is a core? A core is the basic computation unit in the processor. And our SuperMIC 2 cluster has 16 cores each node, and SuperMIC and QuimB have 20 cores each node. So what is a job? A job is a user's request to use a certain amount of resources for a certain amount of time on our cluster for the work. So as I mentioned before, you will need to have a valid allocation before submitting any jobs. Right? So here's a general cluster architecture. So these clusters are multi-user, multitask environment. You are not the only one using the clusters. So there are a lot of different users from different institutions running different jobs on these clusters. So once you log into the cluster via internet, you will go to the head node, which is the login node. Then you can prepare your job, write your code on the head node and submit it to the compute node to run your simulations, your code on the compute node. All right, so how to connect to our supercomputer clusters. So on Linux and Mac users, on Linux and Mac, you can use SSH command on a terminal to connect. And for Windows users, we recommend you to use MobileXterm to connect to our clusters. And the very first thing is you will need to have a valid account. And then you will need to know the host name of the cluster. So for example, if you want to log into Lonnie QuimB2, you will need to know the host name is qb.lonnie.org. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to connect to our clusters. Because I'm using Windows, so since I'm using Windows, I'm going to close this. So I will start a local terminal here. Right? So for Linux and Mac user, you can open the terminal and the command should be exactly the same in the terminal. Right? So first we can type SSH space. Okay, so if you have any options to add to SSH, you can do it. Or if you do not have any options, then you can type your username. So my username, I'll type my username, and then add host name. So for example, if we want to log into like QuimB2, as I mentioned, we type in the host name for QuimB2, which is qb.lonnie.org. Right? So, and then we hit enter. Then, okay, so then we will need to type in our password. So just remember, when you type in your password, you won't see any change in your screen. You won't see any change in your terminal. So you will just need to go ahead and type in your password and hit enter. So I'm typing your password again right now, but you can see nothing happened, and I hit enter. Right, and then after you log in, you can see the message here, and then you can see your username at QuimB, so which means you are logged into QuimB2, right? So for Windows user, you can use same command in MobileXterm, like I just did, or you can go to the session tab in MobileXterm on the top left. I think you can see here. Click it, and then you choose SSH here, and in the remote host section, just type in the host name of the machine that you want to log in. So for example, this time we want to log into SuperMic2. Then we type mic.hpc.lsu.edu. And here, check the specified username and type in your username here and hit OK. Then you also need to type in your password like we just did for Lonnie and hit enter. And now you're logging. You can see now we're logging on SuperMic2. Right. So MobileXterm will save your username and host name of this session when you first log in to this machine. So here you can see on the very left in the MobileXterm, there's a sessions tab. So if you click the sessions tab, you can see it has been saved. Right. Yeah, Mac users, yeah, you can use because Mac has a terminal, right? So you can use terminal or yeah, just advice, yeah. Yeah, you can use whichever tools you want. So here you can see in the sessions tab, MobileXterm has saved the sessions. So I have logged into SuperMic previously, so it saved another one, a copy of it. And then next time you want to log into SuperMic2 again, you just need to double click it, right? And type in your password and you will be able to log in again, right? So if you're using other SSH tools, the graphical user interface might be different, but the procedure should be very similar. And if you're using PuTTY, which is another very popular tool, you can also save your session. So any questions so far about how to log in? Okay, no questions. So next, I'll talk about the cluster environment. So as I mentioned in the previous slides, as a user, once you log into the cluster, you will be on the login node, which is called our head node, right? So a very important rule is do not run any jobs or simulations on the head node, because your jobs or simulations will consume a lot of computational resources, and the login of the other user will be affected on the login node. So the right way to run your job is prepare your job on the head node and submit your job to the compute node. Then they will run on the compute node instead of head node, right? So just a quick example. You can see here. You can see here after I log into SuperMic2, you can see your username at Mike, right? So you will probably see Mike1 or Mike2, just one digit, right, after the cluster name. So here, right here, I have QB1. You may have QB2, right? So this means you are on a head node, right? So if you are on a compute node, you will see 3 digits after the cluster name. So for example, Mike, Mike123 or Quimby222, something like that. So we will talk about how to go to a compute node next week in the next week's session. Right? And if you want to use the graphical user interface of some software, you will need to enable X11 forwarding. So if you're a Linux or Mac user, you will need to add the -X option after SSH command. And if you're using PuTTY, you will need to enable the X11 forwarding inside the PuTTY and install X server on your local machine. And if you're using, if you're a Windows user, you're using MobiXterm, you do not need to do anything. Just MobiXterm will start X server automatically. And here are some commands, useful commands on the head node. So let's try this command. So the first command is pwd. So let's try pwd. Okay, so pwd shows your current working directory. So every time you log in, you will be at your home directory, which is /home/ your username. So here you can see I type the pwd and I'm at my home directory. So the second command is who. Right? If you type who, you can see all the users currently on this node. So this will also remind you that you are not the only one, you are not the only user on the head node. Right? The third command is balance. Right, so if you type balance, you will see it will print all the allocations available to you currently. So this command will help you check the balance of your current allocations. It also shows the detail of the allocations, like the name, the balance, the usage, the expiration date, right? So 3 very useful commands. Any questions so far? Okay, so next I'll talk about the file systems. So in the last week's training, we talked about the Linux file systems. On the cluster, you will also have a home directory, and there's no subdirectories like desktop in your home directory. Now we got one more question though. Yeah, I think so. Same, you can see. And you can see my screen here for the balance. You can see balance, and the font is a little bit larger. So the last column is N. So you can see, yeah, it's year, month, date. And you can also like, I'll show you one more thing, like after you log in, right? After you log into the user portal, so you can see there's a balances, right? Here, the link, you click it, right? You can see your, it basically shows the same information as balance, right? Pretty much the same. You can also check the balance here. You can use the balance command on the cluster to check it, right? I got another notification from chat, but I didn't see any new questions. Okay, yeah, okay. Okay. All right, so we just talked about the home directory, right? So so for on our clusters, in the home directory, you won't have like folders like desktop or something else. And then you will have a work directory on our cluster for every user, but for in a local machine, you may not have the work directory, right? And here, all of our software are installed under user local packages, right? User local. So every user will have a home directory for your own code, for your script, for your compiled executable. And your work directory is for job input and output. And please note, the work directory is not for long-term storage. And the file in the work directory will be purged after 60 to 90 days. And we do not have a backup for that, okay? And the work directory will be created after 1 hour, 1 hour after your first login. So if this is your first time logging to our cluster and you do not have a work directory available, just don't worry about it. It will be created for you later. So besides the home and work directory, we have another very important directory called the project. So for the project directory, only PI can apply and renew. And if you need to use a very large software, for example, like 10 GB, which is larger than the space limit of your home directory, and you do not want to save it in a work directory apparently, because it will be purged after 60 to 90 days. So the best solution will be ask your PI to apply for a storage allocation, and you will get a project folder for your whole group. And there are more information about storage allocation in the appendix section of the slides. So if you have any questions, just feel free to contact us. And the home directory has a like 5 GB limit, and the work directory does not have any limit regarding disk space, but there is a limitation on number of files you can save in your work directory. So you can use the show quota command to check your current usage. So let's do it on cluster. So if you type show quota here, right, you can see your disk usage. So for me, you can see I have used almost 3 GB in my home directory, and the quota is 5 GB limit. And for work directory, I have used more than 5 GB. And there's no disk quota for a home directory. You can see the quota is 0, but there is a F quota, which means the limit of number of files you can save in your work directory. You can see the limit is 4 million. So you can have up to 4 million files saved in work directory, right? Okay, so any questions so far about the file system? Okay, so no questions, then I will talk about file transfer. So for Linux and Mac users, I think you may be familiar with scp or rsync commands to transfer files. So let's see, let's do this. So because I'm using Windows, I will start a local terminal here. So say I want to upload a file to one comment there. Does the purge occur from the date of the creation is on a rolling calendar time frame? So the purge occurs like if you have not changed your folder like after 60 to 90 days, then your file will most likely be purged, right? So I think the purge will, I think we have certain rules for that, for the purge rule. So you will receive a notification email on Thursday, I think. And you will tell you like if you have anything that needs to be purged, right? So just make sure, don't save like, if you have run some simulations on the cluster and you have some data files, some important data files, and the best thing to do is just to transfer it to to a local computer as soon as possible, because you may forget about it and then they got purged. Not the date of the creation, but the date of modification. So if you have a script like say a script saved on HPC, and if you don't touch it, if you don't touch the script, like after 60 to 90 days, it might be purged. But if you like keep changing the script, you're working on the script, like you change it like every day, every week, then it most likely won't be purged because you keep changing it, and the date on the script is changing. So every time you modify it, so. Say, another question, should I install Anaconda Python? Well, we have, yes, we have Python Anaconda installed on I think every cluster. So I think we have Python 2 and Python 3, both with Anaconda installed. So yeah, we will talk about the software applications in the next section, I think, in today's session, but we'll talk about it later. Yeah. Normally, well, it depends on what you need, right? So like sometimes some user just want to use probably the newest version of some Python modules or some or like, for example, TensorFlows, right? In this case, then you probably need to install it by yourself. But if you just need to use Python Anaconda or existing Python modules on our cluster, then it's fine. You don't need to install it. Right? We have already installed a lot of softwares on our cluster. So yeah, we can talk about it later. So here I just opened a local terminal and then on Windows, and then say I want to upload a file from my local machine to HPC clusters. So I can use the scp command. So here scp space and the source of the file. So where is the file on my local machine? So it's on my desktop. So test scp. Okay, so then I'll need to type the destination of the file. So where do I want to upload the file to, right? So for example, I want to upload it to my home directory on SuperMac. Then what I'll need to do is type my username first at the host name of SuperMac 2. Very similar as like what we did for login, right? hpc.su.edu, and then you will need to specify where do you want to put your file in SuperMac 2. So you type colon. So if I want to save it in my home directory, I just type the path to my home directory, /home/ my username, right? And hit enter. And then this time you will also need to type in your password, hit enter. And you can see it shows it has been uploaded 100%. Then we go to SuperMac and we check it. So it has been uploaded, right? So same thing, if you want to download file from SuperMac to your local computer, you can do the same. You can do the same. You can use the same command, but you just need to switch the source and the destination, right? So if you are Windows user, wait, I just want to show you something else. So if you want to download something to the cluster, right? So for example, if you go to our website, so in training sessions, so probably for upcoming trainings, you will need to download some materials. You can copy the link in your web browser, and you want to download it to your to our cluster, right? You can first download it to your local machine and then upload it, or you can copy the link right? And then go to the cluster and use wget command, wget space and the link, paste the link and hit enter. And you can see, right, you'll be downloaded to the cluster. And if you're a Windows user and you're using MobileXterm, the download and upload will be much easier. So after you log into the cluster, you can switch to, you can see there's a SFTP tab here, right? And you can see all the files in your home directory are shown here, and you can choose whichever files you want to download. And then you can click the download selected files here and choose the destination of the file. And if you want to upload files, you can click here, upload to current folder, right here, and choose the files that you will need to upload. Right? So any questions so far about file transfer? Okay, so no questions then. Next, I'll talk about the software on our cluster. So as you can see, we have already installed a lot of software on our clusters. Software for MD simulations, for CFD simulations, for visualization, for programming like Python, and some mathematical and utility libraries. There are a lot of available software on our website, and you can also search it. So here, if you go to our website, on top right, there's a search bar here. Right? So for example, I want to use ANSYS. I want to search it, right? Search ANSYS, and all the related content will be shown here in this page. And say I want to use ANSYS on SuperMac 2 here. Click the first link and find ANSYS in the list, right? So and then you can see this page, right? So so for every software, there's a specific page for it, and you will find the instruction of how to load the software, how to submit job, and there might be a simple script and useful links here. So if you want to learn how to use the software on our cluster, like you can search it here, right? So all these softwares are installed on the user local. So if you want to install your own software, right, it is also possible. If it is not very large, you can install it in your home directory. But if it is very large, as I mentioned, or your whole group want to share the same version of it, you can install it in your home in a project directory. So if the software is very popular and a lot of users from different groups, from different departments requested the software, we will consider adding it to our system-wide software stack. So even if the software are installed, you will need to change some environmental variables before you can use them, like path, LD library path. If you have some basic knowledge of Linux, or if you have attended our last week's training session, you may be familiar with environmental variables. And it is fine if you don't know, if you know nothing about it, because normally you don't need to change it manually. You just need to learn a tool called module to change these variables for you on our clusters. So you just need to use module to load this software you like to use, and the module tool is available on all of our clusters, I think. And one old tool on Super Mic 2 cluster called Soft ENV, and we no longer sorry, we no longer support issues related to Soft ENV. So we encourage you to replace Soft ENV with module, right? And the instruction can be found on our website. So let me show you. You just need to go to the documentation user guide, Azure HPC and Super Mic 2 here. In the table of content, you go to computing environment, right? And in the section 3.2, you can find the instruction of replace soft ENV with module. Very simple, you just one line command. Right, so so for module, you can use module to list all the software available. You can use it to load the software you want to use, or if you don't want to use the software anymore, you can also use module to unload it. So next, I will show you some basic commands of module. So after you log into the cluster, one of the clusters, right? So if you want to check like all the software is available on the cluster, you can use the command module space AV or avail, and then hit enter. You can see it will print all the software is available here, right, on this cluster. And so you can type a module. Let me clear this first. You can also type module space list to check the software is currently loaded to your user environment, right? So you can see currently I only have MATLAB loaded, right? So if you want to load a like a specific software and you don't want to like find it in the whole list, right? So the list is pretty long. So you can use the command module space AV space the name of the software. So for example, you want to use Python, right? One of the users just mentioned he wants to use Python. So just type it and then hit enter, right? And module will only print, right, the results related to Python. So you can see we have Python 2.7 and Python 3.6 installed. So I got 2 comments there. You're not seeing the command. Like, did you get any? Is this your first time logging to the cluster, Super Mic 2? I mean, is this your first time? Have you ever used? You don't think so? Maybe. Okay. So like, if this is the first time logging to Super Mic 2, like I said, you might need to. So it might not switch from soft ENV to module automatically. So you might need to do this command. Yeah, you have to use this command like I mentioned. You can see here this command. Right. So follow the method 1. I think method 1 is much easier. So you type the command and then log out and log back in again. Then you should be able to use module. Okay. Right, so you can see you can use module space AV space the name of the software. Then right, you can see. Right, so any questions so far? I just want to make sure everybody can log into the cluster if you have an account, and then you can use module there. Yeah, fix it. Okay, great. So like For example, if I want to use Python 3.6, right? So before using it, I have to load it, right? So then I type module space load space and followed by the name of the software, right? Right, so the name should be exactly the same as it's shown in module, right? Here, and click enter. And then we can use module list, right, to check if it is successfully loaded, right? You can see now, previously I only have MATLAB loaded, right? Now I have, you can see 2 modules loaded, right? Python 3.6. And if I don't want to use it, right? If I don't want to use Python, so I can use module unload, right? And the name of the software and hit enter, right? And then we use module list to check it again. You can see Python 3.6 has been unloaded and now I only have MATLAB left, right? So any questions? So everybody can do that? Like on SuperMac, SuperMic, or Queen Bees, or any questions? Yes, just let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Okay, no questions. Okay, so another command we can use is module purge. So say if you have like multiple, say let me load some modules, like maybe load some more modules here. So you can see I currently have 3 modules loaded: MATLAB, ANSYS, and Python, and I want to unload all of them. I don't want to use any of them, right? And I don't want to use module unload to load them one by one. So you can use the command module space purge, right? And it will unload all of your modules currently loaded. So we run it, and then we use module. It's a little bit laggy. Module list, check it again. So now you can see no module files currently loaded. I don't have any modules loaded currently. Right? So let's check the name of the module keys, the software. So you can see, so the software names that module printed or the module keys that the module printed, you can see the first word, right? The first word of each one is the name of the software. So you can see for this one, we know it's Amber. This one we know is ANSYS, right? This one we know is Beast, right? So if there's a slash after the name and there's a number after the slash, and this number means the version of the software. So here we can see this one is for Amber 16. This one is for ANSYS 19.3. So if there's another slash after the number, you can see here, Amber 18 / Intel 17 MRPH 2.2. So which means this software was built with Intel compiler version 17 and MRPH 2.2. So let me try this one. If I use module load to load this software, right, to load this one into my environment, what's gonna happen? Let me check using module list to check it again. So we can see right now I have 5 modules loaded instead of the one, right? Instead of the Amber 18, we have 5 modules. We can see Intel 17 is loaded, MRPH 2.2 is loaded. So if you load this software by using module, the other dependencies will also be loaded. So you don't need to worry about the dependencies or anything else. After you load it, you should be good to go. You can start using the software. So say if you really want to, well, yes, yeah, you can use the command on the head node. Yes, you can use the command head node, but this is a example shows you how to use module command. But normally we don't do that. You can there are several ways. Okay, so basically, if you want to say run your simulations by on an interactive node, on a compute node in interactive mode. So we didn't talk about it today because we don't have much time left. I think we will talk about it in the next week's session. So if you go to a compute node, right, you have to load the modules again, right? Or if you submit a job, you have to load the module first, right? So which is very annoying, I think. So nobody wants to do that. And then I will show you how to load those modules automatically, right? So it is okay to like using module command on head node, right? But I'm just showing you how to use the module command here. So yeah, we will talk about it later. Right. So here, the next, if you want to know, I really want to know like what has been changed after you load this software, like in your path or in your LD library path. You can use the command module this space, the name, the module key of the software. So and then hit enter, and you can see it prints the description of the software and the paths that has been changed, right? You can see details here. So yeah, just one user mentioned like, just as I mentioned, like nobody wants to load module files, load module keys like every time you log in, right? So an easier way to load modules automatically upon login is to save the module load command in a file named .modules in your home directory. So let me check. So yeah, I'm in my home directory right now, and then I use vi .modules, right, to open the .modules file, right? And then hit enter. Then we can see this is the modules file, .modules file, and you may not have this part. You may not have this part because I added I added this part by myself. So say for example, you can, if you want to load like for example MATLAB here, you can add the command module space load space MATLAB, exactly the same as what I just did to load other softwares, right? Exactly the same as the command module load, the name of module key here, right? So VI, I'm not sure like if you still remember how to use VI. So after open it, you can click, you can type I here, and then you can see you will go into insert mode, which means you can change the file. Otherwise, you cannot change the file, right? So after go in the insert mode, you just type something here. You can change the file, and after you add the command here, and then you hit ESC to exit from insert mode. You can see the insert just disappeared at the corner, right? And then you can type colon W. So W means write. So which means you want to save the file. You don't want to lose any changes. And Q means quit. So which means you want to save and quit, right? And then hit enter. Okay. So then the .modules file will be saved. You can either log out, log back in to make it effective, or you can use the command source space dot modules to make it effective immediately. Right? So any questions? Any questions so far? For the dot modules file. Okay. So you can also create your own module keys. So you can create a file like this, showing in the slides. And then you can add a path to the key to the module path environment variables. Then next time you can use your own module keys. So here are exercises about using module. If you have time, you can try it. And here are some take-home messages for today's session. So we talk about what is HPC and our available HPC resources. And then we talk about how to apply for an account, the allocation policies, and how to reset your password. Then we reviewed some important HPC concepts. Right? And then you should remember never run your job on head node. Right? And we showed how to log in using SSH, using Mobex term, how to check your file quota, how to check your balance. And we talk about how to transfer files, how to download files. And in the last part, we talk about how to use module, right? So I think next week for the user environment 2 training session, my colleague will talk about job management and how to submit jobs. The same time, I think 9 to 11, the Zoom link might be different, but you will receive the confirmation if you registered. We just had a workshop in summer, and hopefully we will have another one next year. So if you have any questions, you can send us email or contact our help desk. So before you left, I just want to ask you to help us finish our training sessions, training surveys. So here, if you go to our website in the weekly training upcoming, right? So after the training schedule, there's a HPC user survey. So there's a link at the end, right? So you can click the link, right? And please help us finish the survey, right? So I think I will print the link in the chat channel. So I think that's it for today. So thank you everybody for coming.